Mr. Minit. Who doesn't think of that name when it comes to those small but important key-cutting services, engraving or shoe and watch repairs? Mr. Minit is a highly recognised international service brand which stands out in an otherwise largely fragmented industry. From its origins in Belgium back in 1957, the company's had a long and profitable history. In Australia and New Zealand, there are now 209 shops, approximately half of which are franchised, and it's very successful. According to Minit CEO Mark Rusbatch, the company's shown consistent sales growth every year for the past 9 years, and last year it reached its highest sales in the company's history. Yet, despite high brand recognition, Mr. Minit still has only 25% of the market, which means plenty of room for growth, and that's great opportunities for potential franchisees.
Mr. Minit, we're over 50 years old, so we have a good sense of history. We're not a fad or a fashion, in a fad or a fashion sector. We deal with real business, it's basic needs. However, we also have an offer or a customer offer that is very relevant for today's market. So whilst we're proud of our heritage, we think there are huge opportunities going forward. I think the other thing that I would say is because we are a well-established business, we are under no pressure to franchise. We want to franchise because we like people to have ownership in the business. However, we can pick the franchisees in terms of ensuring that they're a good fit for the business rather than just based on capital.
So what do you look for in franchisees? What sort of people are you looking for?
Well, our ideal franchisee, first of all, has to have the right values. Those values have to be consistent with the values in the business. Generally, they've had a service or have a service background or a service ethos, and quite often they will also have a trade background or might have a trade background. And generally that sort of fit with your hands and service and people and all of those type of things comes together very well.
You take customer service very seriously, don't you?
A very strong customer service, because ultimately the quality of the customer offer is what drives economic value. This is a service business, so for us, the quality of the people, the attitude, the motivation, the work ethic are much more important than or really drive the product that we sell, which is a service in itself.
So what about training? How do you train franchisees to do all that engraving and key cutting and so on?
The Mr. Minit business, the organisation itself is very much of a learning or a training organisation. So we invest huge resources in terms of training, the technical training for new team members coming in or new people coming into the business. In the first 3 months is very, very heavily weighted towards the four core services. For the first 3 months, we train and get new people up to their basic accreditation, which we call Certificate of Proficiency. Following that, there is further advanced technical training, which takes it to the next level, which we call DOE, which stands for Diploma of Excellence, which then is a prerequisite for moving into a franchise.
So there's quite a lot of training before you even start the franchise?
There is a huge amount of training before you start the franchise. And what I would also say is that training never stops. Because we're constantly upgrading our offer and our service, our technical training is ongoing, and it is as relevant for those with 20 or 30 years experience as with 2 years. Look, what I would also say for our franchisees, we have the Minit Diploma of Small Business, so they have constant access to small business development modules, and that is also never ending.
Apart from training, you provide a lot of ongoing support?
Very, very much so. We have a relatively high ratio of field management support to franchisees, about 1 to 20, so very strong around that, very strong in terms of functional support around marketing and training. However, there is also an awful lot of what I would say informal support in terms of the franchise network itself. We're very much about leveraging the skills and the knowledge from very successful and very experienced franchisees and using that either in forms of mentoring, inducting, coaching, and often support as well.
Well, here we are sitting in head office, but how would you describe your relationship with all the franchisees out there?
Well, we use the term support office firstly, and the term that we use and that I use is I talk about the Minit team. And the Minit team You know, frankly, I don't mind whether someone's directly employed by Minit, they're a franchisee, or employed by a franchisee, they are part of the Minit team. And that in itself indicates the type of relationship, the collaborative nature of our approach, that ultimately this thing only works if the three stakeholders succeed, which is, of course, the customer must do well out of it, the franchisee must be successful, and there must be something in it for the franchisor as well. So it is very much around the team.
Okay, well, bottom line, can you give us an idea of the financial arrangement that's required for a franchisee to join the group?
Our financial model is a little bit different to most others because we've been around for, you know, close on 50 years. We're a well-established business and we don't require franchisee capital to expand. You know, we have an established network of shops, just about half of them which are not franchised. What we need are great people with the work ethic and enthusiasm. So capital, whilst there is some required, is not the main selection criteria. So up front, typically a franchisee will need approximately $15,000 to fund their training costs. They'll need to fund initial working capital requirements of perhaps $20,000 to $25,000 for stock, and that's it. Then following that, they are required to pay a weekly fee which incorporates the license fee, equipment lease and rent, which is paid a week in arrears. Now, what I would also say in terms of our model is that we do not generally franchise new shops. We see the business development risk should be borne by the franchisor. So the only shops that we franchise are those that are well established, have a good trading history, and generally the potential franchisee will have worked in them and run them before they are franchised. So it is a bit different, and again, what we're trying to do is provide the upside for the franchisees and squeeze out as much of the risk as we can.
What's been the feedback from franchisees who are operating out there?
It's interesting because in terms of our relationship with our franchisees, you've got to remember that we've worked with them for a period before they've become a franchisee. So we've worked with them in terms of establishing their goals, worked with them in terms of understanding their motivation. So when they finally do go into a franchise, they go in with enthusiasm, energy, generally a bit nervous and a bit scared. You know, we share that, and once they're in it for a few weeks, the nerves have sort of worked away, and there is often a combination of sort of appreciation and probably a bit of relief as well in terms that they're finally there.
Well, finally, you're also an award-winning franchise. That must be pretty gratifying for you as the man operating here behind the brand.
Yes, it was terrific last year to be at Perth and to be there when Minit was awarded, given a number of the big awards. Certainly we have the Australian Franchisee of the Year, Darren Andonoski from Box Hill, terrific franchisee, but also Maria Walton won the Franchise Executive of the Year, so I think we were the only company to have two of the major awards. But whilst that's terrific recognition of the great people we have in the business, ultimately the thing that drives the business is to the degree that we can satisfy our customers, and that's customer satisfaction. How they feel is what ultimately will drive the value.
Well, any final message for potential franchisees that are looking at the Mr. Minit brand?
The thing that I would say to potential franchisees is that we are, you know, very concerned about the quality of the individuals. We're prepared to back the individual. They should know that Minit, as a long-established and successful franchisor, has skin in the game. So not only, as I said, will we only franchise well-established businesses, Minit also maintains the head lease for those businesses, takes responsibility for the shop fit-outs and the refurbishments. And I think whilst all retail businesses and retail service businesses do require hard work, it's probably one of the more attractive ones, especially against, say, some of the food type businesses. You know, the hours aren't quite as brutal, the inventory management isn't quite as tough. So I think very good business, good opportunity for the right people.